Hi, everybody, and welcome to Passion from Pain. And sitting here, just kind of waiting, wasting a little bit of time, and I thought I'd jump on and go live with anybody out there who wanted to jump on and say hi. Tomorrow, I've got my first live webinar at 3 p.m. called Finding Strength After Toxicity. It's going to be a 4-part series. We're going to meet every Friday, okay, at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to talk about finding the strength after leaving toxicity. One thing we don't necessarily think about when we are leaving our abusive situations or the toxic situations that we're in is the aftermath, the wake of the abuse. What are we going to be dealing with after that is within us? And it's something that we don't necessarily think about. We don't want to think about. In fact, when we're planning leaving our abusers, we think that life is going to be great again. We're going to be able to dream again. We dream about what life is going to be like. I'm going to be free. Oh my God, I'm so excited. But the reality of the situation is then we've got to deal with ourselves. We deal with ourselves in the wake of the abuse. And that is the tough part. Oh my God, the really hard part. And we're not told about that. We're not told about the depression. We're not told about the anxiety that's going to overwhelm us. I remember very well after leaving my situation, okay, just the overwhelming feeling of not being able to do anything right, that, I was stuck in this life that I had, that there was nothing out there for me. There was nobody out there for me. This huge wave of depression, that I wasn't good enough, that I never was going to be good enough for anything. I didn't deserve anything good in my life. I had made so many bad decisions that was my life. I was going to continue to make these bad decisions. So what was the point? What was the point of going forward? What was the point of going on? How many times I was on the floor in my bathroom crying, just waiting, hoping that the pain would go away, and not realizing that the power to make it go away was within me the whole time. It took me 20 years to get to that point where I could realize that. 20 years of dealing with myself, learning that I was the one that needed to change in order for everything to get better. If I wanted to get better, I needed to change myself. I needed to change my thought processes. And it's hard to do when you're in this state of depression, when you feel like all is lost, like you're hopeless. You feel like you're not worth it. I get it. When the anxiety is so bad that you can't see past the made up things that you're anxious about. You're so worried about what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. You can't get past what you need to do, what you can do, what you have the ability to do. And that was the hardest thing for me to get past, was that anxiety, was that depression. And it took years of researching and working on myself, years of journaling, years of processing the pain and processing the past. And, here I am now. I've put everything together in a course called Finding Strength After Toxicity. And that course is the foundational course that everybody should be taking once they leave an abusive situation, if you want to get past the abuse that's going on in your mind, because it's still living in your head. The abuse is still very much active and real in your own mind. And that's what we have to get past. And that's what this course does, is it shows you the way forward when you don't see it, when you can't see it. You can't see it for yourself. And that's what this course does. And that's what this webinar is going to help you discover, is a way forward so that you can rebuild yourself and your life after leaving the toxic abuse. I have put so much of myself and so much thought and so much reflection of my past into this course. And it is everything that I wish I would have known when I started my journey 20 years ago. It's everything that took me a decade to finally understand that I needed to have in my life so that I could go forward, so that I could move past the pain, so that I could pursue my passions, so that I could understand who I was. That was a big part of it, is I didn't even know who I was. I was whoever I needed to be to whoever was around me, so that person was happy with me, whether I cared about them or not. But that's who I was. I was this major people pleaser, and it didn't matter who that person was in my life. Now, those of you who know me personally, you understand now, I don't really give a shit about that anymore. My life is to serve me and my passions, and that revolves around serving my family and serving others who are in the aftermath of an abusive situation, who are looking to find themselves, who are looking to get past the depression and past the pain, and looking for that roadmap, looking for that hope, looking for some glimmer of light in the darkness. And it's there. I promise you, it's there. But we're going to learn how to find that, together. And I can help you find that. It took me a while to get there myself. And I understand how difficult it is to find all of that for yourself. We've got to understand that there's so much information out there. We don't even know where to start. Most of the time we're starting and we're looking at, we're looking at a plethora of information. We don't know which way to go. So we start with meditation, and that ends up not working because we can't quiet our minds enough. And then we feel like we're failing at that. Okay, there's another thing I can't do right. And we try the affirmations. We feel so silly looking at ourselves in the mirror, saying these words that we don't even believe. But we're told if we say them enough to ourselves in the mirror, we're eventually going to believe it. And to be perfectly honest, that was just it was a crock of shit for me anyway. And if that's where you are, I get it. You felt silly doing this kind of stuff, and it just didn't work out for you. And so here we are. We're looking at, the rest of our lives, and we're looking at moving forward, and we're looking at, what can we do? Where do we even start? That's the biggest thing. Where do we start? And a lot of people will say, well, just start anywhere. And, no, because we don't know. We don't know, and then we just start throwing darts at the wall and hoping we're going to hit the bullseye. And, oh man, we're going to get lucky enough that we're going to hit that bullseye and then everything's going to be all right. And God, is that really any way to continue to live? Is that any way to look at our healing, how to fix ourselves after the abuse? No, not really. I mean, God, that's really no way to live, throwing darts at the freaking wall, hoping that we're going to hit the bullseye. It ain't going to work. It ain't going to work out very well at all for us, and so we have to have a plan. We got to know what we're going to try, what we're going to do, how we're going to do this. We got to be able to make a commitment to ourselves, but that's so hard to do when everything is just so unsure, when we are so unsure, I mean, we're not even sure that we deserve it. That's where our minds are, right? We're not even sure that we deserve to go on a healing journey because our minds are so screwed up from our abusers. We're taught that, especially after just leaving a situation, they're telling us how unworthy we are and, what terrible people we are and how could we. And how could we leave, and really convincing us of what terrible people we really were for leaving the situation. And we start to believe that to a point, and it's because we were in the situation for so long. It's easy to believe that kind of stuff. And it doesn't matter if you've been abused or not. It's easy to believe the negative things about ourselves. Isn't that sad? It's so easy to believe the negative things about ourselves. But why is that? Why is it so easy to believe the negative and not the positive? It's so easy to look at our lives and say, yeah, I screwed up, so I'm a screw up. Why do we do that? Instead of looking at the positive moments that are, oh man, I really did it. I killed it. I knocked it out of the park. I'm awesome at that, and believing that and moving forward with that, but we can't look at those situations. And it's just the way that we frame looking at our lives and understanding our lives and the filter that we look at our lives through. And oftentimes we're still looking at our lives through the filter of our abuser. How terrible is that? So we got to break free from that. We got to break free from that. And that all revolves around going on our healing journeys, right? God, but where do we start? How do we start? I don't know where to start. It's so confusing. I totally understand. It took me years, and there was a period of time I just put it all away and didn't work on myself for a long time, just because I couldn't deal with the indecision about which way to go. And so it was much easier to slap a smile on my face and go to work every day, super unhappy, hoping that I would at least have a halfway decent day, maybe get a funny joke or two out of it. And, that would be about the most positivity I would get in the day. And God damn, how sad was that? How sad was that? How sad was I? But anyway, so here I am. And, this is one of many lives that are going to be happening. But tomorrow at 3 p.m., I'm super excited to start putting this course out there and start teaching people how to, build the strength and build the confidence, and how to look at yourself positively, and how to fight for ourselves even when we don't feel like it. When we don't feel like it, right? How do we still do that? How do we get past that? And those are the hard times. Those are the really hard times, is when we have convinced ourselves that we're not worth it. So what's the point? I get it. I get it. I lived that for way too long. But I don't anymore. And that's what working on yourself does to you. And you get to the point where you are healed. Am I 100% healed? Nah, you're never going to be 100% healed. I think that's kind of a lie and a myth that we teach ourselves, an unattainable goal. Okay? But we do get to the point where we are, we understand, our past. We understand our past decisions. Whether, it was good or bad, we understand what had happened. And we processed it. And we processed our role, and we processed everybody else's roles, and we learned. And that is the biggest thing. And I think that's kind of what a lot of people think about healing, is learning. Did we learn from these moments in our lives? Nobody deserves the abuse. We end up in these situations, though, because, we had a weakness within ourselves. And that is the really hard part about all of it, is facing those weaknesses that we have within ourselves. What does that look like? What was those weaknesses? And those are hard to look at. Understanding, why we ended up in those situations, kind of was partly because of a weakness that we had. So facing those, understanding those, and coming to terms with what those are. Mine was, I was a huge people pleaser. Everybody in my life had to be happy with me, regardless of how unhappy it made me. That sucked. But in the moment, I thought that was the way to go. I thought that was the way that you kept people in your life. That was the way that, you were happy. You were happy by getting validated by the other people in your life. And that often meant doing the things that you didn't want to do, as long as everybody else was happy with you, right? What was the big deal? But that's where all of the pain came from. That's where all of the problems came from. And I see that now, I'm 20 years later, here I am healed from all of that. And I understand now that wasn't it. That is exactly how I got into, the abusive situations that I was in the past. And that is what put me in those situations 100%. 100%. And it was my inability to stand up for myself and have the confidence within myself. But I don't have that now. I worked on all of that. And, I'll be damned if anybody else will ever put me in a situation like that again. In fact, I could be, if I need to be, one of the most intimidating people that I need to be in order to not be in a situation like that again. But people understand now that there is that boundary between me and them, and that I do draw that line in the sand, and that I will uphold my confidence and my boundaries and my peace before I will ever put myself in a situation just to be validated by somebody else ever again. It's all about being validated by yourself. We're not taught that. We're not taught that when we were kids. We're not taught that growing up. In fact, my parents taught me it was about, everybody else. But, as some of you guys know, that was the situation that I was in. That was, my manipulative adopted family. A lot of you guys know that. That's what they fed me. That's what I had to believe. And that's what they needed me to believe in order for me to continue to support them until, I did, until everything blew up back in the day. And then it took me another 20 years to figure all this out and get over it when I thought it was all me. But here I am. I had to cut them all off, my entire adopted family. So here I am. I had to go make my own family, and that's okay. I have no family anymore other than, my husband and my kiddos. And that's okay. I'm happy now. And that's what it's all about. I have peace of mind, and I am not beholden to anybody else's standards, especially when it was abusive. And I'm so happy that I did that for myself. So that's why I put, the programs together. I've got the Passion from Pain platform, and I'm just starting to roll all of that out. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific time, we're going to do the Finding Strength After Toxicity, the first day of the 4-part series. So I'm really excited to get that started. And so that'll be right here on Facebook. And I will be presenting some of the slides that are from, the bigger course that I'm putting together, but starting to roll some of that information out. And so some of you guys have been with me from the very beginning, and I appreciate all of the support and love that you guys have always showed me. And so I'm just so happy to put all of this out, and so happy to teach everybody everything that I have learned. The biggest thing that I've gotten out of all of this is that somebody out there is taking advantage of and needing, this healed version of myself, and the understanding that, it is about that internal peace. It is about that internal love, and being able to have that strength and courage to just love yourself. And that's the message that I'm really trying to get across to everybody. It's okay to distance yourself from people who are not serving you, from people who are not doing good by you. They're not doing good for you. Love is supposed to be reciprocal. It's supposed to be, this mutual thing. It's not supposed to be a one-way street where one person is constantly getting dragged through the mud, taken advantage of, and then being told, this is love, this is family, stick by family no matter what, or, you know, or your spouse, your husband, or whatever, whoever it is that's abusing you. That's, you know, whether it's physical or mental, you know, you don't put up with it. You don't need it, you know, and if that means that you have to go it alone, then that's what that means. You know, like I said, I built my own family. I cut my entire family off because of it. I had gotten tired of it. I couldn't deal with it anymore. I couldn't be abused anymore. I couldn't be put through the ringer like I was. And that was the best decision that I ever made for myself. So, you know, the platform and the course goes into how to deal with ourselves in the aftermath of leaving the abusive situation. You know, you get to that point, obviously, where enough is enough and you stand your ground and you leave, you know, but we're not really prepared for the next step. And that is the depression and the anxiety and all of that comes in the aftermath of leaving the situation. And that's what took me many, many years to get over, and lots of research and lots of working on myself. But, you know, it's the hardest thing I've ever done, best thing I've ever done. And I'm just so proud to have been able to put this all together. And here I am. I'm going to be helping as many people as I possibly can with my story and, you know, the journey that I went on. And, you know, kind of cutting out a lot of the bullshit, the fluff that is kind of served to us when we're researching, when we're looking for the way out. You know, cutting a lot of that nonsense out, because there is a lot of it out there. You know, there's a way to do this. There's a way to do this right. And I understand it's not one size fits all, but there are things that you have to do. You know, you do have to work on yourself. You do have to face yourself. You do have to face the things that you don't want to face about yourself. It's the truth. You know, so if you've got somebody that you're watching, a creator or somebody that's telling you that they can heal you without, you know, looking at the past or the negative in your life, they're feeding you a line of bullshit. They're feeding you, you know, a part of you that doesn't want to deal with it, and they're capitalizing on that. And I get it. You know, we don't want to deal with that, but I guarantee you not dealing with it is exactly what's going to put you right back into a very similar situation. Because dealing with these demons that we have, dealing with these weaknesses that we have, is ultimately what's going to build the strength within us to, you know, stand up for ourselves, to have the courage to love ourselves, and to ultimately not fall back into the same cycles of abuse as we continue on our lives and continue to finally trust and let people in. We want to trust and let people into our lives again. But if we don't deal with those problems that we had within ourselves, and we don't deal with our weaknesses, and we don't deal with, you know, why we fell for the abuse to begin with, we're going to fall right back into it because we're going into it blind again. You know, first time around, we didn't know about those things in ourselves, right? We just wanted to be loved, and we liked how it felt to be loved, especially in the beginning, especially with, you know, any kind of abuser. They are going to love bomb you, and you like how that feels in the beginning. It feels good, especially if you didn't have it before. You know, and it felt really good, you know, but then, you know, as we all know, the abusers, they start to show us who they really are after a while, unfortunately. But, you know, these are the lessons that we learn, and this is why we look at all of this. This is why we process this. This is why we reflect. And don't be afraid to reflect on things. Don't be afraid to reflect on it. Don't be afraid to look at it. You know, reflection is what ultimately is going to give us our power back. We have to look at what happened. We have to look at the nuances. We have to look at our behaviors, not just theirs. We have to look at how we felt through the situation and how their, you know, behaviors made us feel. And we have to understand that about ourselves. And ultimately, we got to understand ourselves is really what this all comes down to. You know, we end up falling for the abuse because we don't understand ourselves, and we don't understand how to love ourselves, and we don't understand, you know, how other people need to show us that they love us. And so we just accept whatever we're given, and we say thank you, And then next thing you know, we're in this spiral that we can't get ourselves out of because we keep getting sucked back in. And those were the lessons that I learned. And it, like I said, it took me 20 years to get to this point. But I'm putting it all together and putting it all into a platform. And if you're not following me, I hope that you guys are, because I got a lot of really awesome content coming out for everybody. And my true passion now is to help everybody learn about the cycles of abuse and how to overcome it and how to overcome ourselves, ultimately, in the wake of the abuse that we've suffered or endured. You know, we don't have to live like this, but we do have to work on ourselves if we want to get out of it. Okay. And don't ever tell yourself that you're not worth it. Don't ever tell yourself that, you know, you're not good enough, you don't deserve it, because that is just bullshit that, you know, I don't know if somebody put in your head or you put in your head because something didn't work out right. You know, that it's, you are worth it. 100%. Trust me, you are. I can't tell you how many times I told myself that I wasn't, but you know, here I am now. I did this work on myself, and you know, so many people now need this, and I see that. And it was difficult to put this all together. It was difficult to, you know, 20 years of me seeing what works and what doesn't work. And I've, you know, finally been able to put it all together for everybody. And I'm just excited to be able to share what I know, and how I can help people get past this, you know. And one thing that you need to understand, no matter where you are right now, you know, you just keep going and you keep working on yourself. Somebody out there, I guarantee you, somebody out there is going to need the healed version of you. 100%. Somebody does. And, you know, if you're not in a state of mind where you think that you deserve this for yourself, think about it that way. Somebody needs the healed version of you in the future. Especially you. Especially you. Especially you need this healed version of yourself. You do. You know, you need to be able to look at yourself and say, you know what, we got this. You know what, I love myself. You know what, this is going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. I know that I'm strong enough that I'm only going to allow the people in my life that are going to do me right. You know, and if people do me wrong, they do me wrong, but I'm, you know, live and learn. And it's, you know, not the end of the world, but I'm not going to let it continue. You know, if somebody does me wrong, that's about the end of our relationship. Thank you very much. You know, so I don't know. These are just some thoughts that I'm having today while I'm waiting. So I appreciate the few of you that are here watching. And I just want to say that I love every single one of you that have been following me, and that are watching today. And I hope that you guys are finding the self-love, and I hope that you guys are finding, you know, the path forward. You know, if it's not you or somebody that you know, let them know about the platform. Let them know that, you know, we're here to teach people about overcoming after abuse. Okay. There's so much that we need to work on after we leave a situation. You know, we're rewired, in a sense, in our abusive situations. They do. They literally rewire the way we think and the way we watch. Or the way we, not the way we watch, but the way we look at ourselves. You know, they rewire everything within us. And the only way to get past all of that is to do the rewiring ourselves, to undo it, and to bring ourselves back to that state of, what is that, homeostasis? Is that the word? That state of, you know, where of just kind of equilibrium where we need to be. But we got to do that work on ourselves, because that is not going to be done on its own. You know, we have to do that work, and it is a lot of work, and it is hard work, and it is painful work. And, you know, there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, and, you know, you've got to go on that roller coaster, unfortunately. And if anybody tells you that there's any other way to do it, you know, they're lying. They're lying to you. They're feeding you bullshit. You know, you've got to go through the roller coaster of it, unfortunately. and I've been there. I know. I get it. It is no fun. And even now, you know, 20 years later, you know, sometimes I'll look back at things that had happened. And, at my age now, I just hit 45, and, now I'm understanding things at a level that I couldn't understand them before when I was, 25 or even 35, so as you go through and you feel like, you've gone on this journey and you've healed from a few things, or you've gotten an understanding of some things, it's going to pop back up, and then you're going to have a completely different understanding on things as you get older. I used to be very angry at my mother for allowing a lot of the things to happen that had happened to me. But now that I'm 45, I'm the age that she was when all of this happened. And I've got an older son, and I'm looking at what had happened, and I'm thinking that, while I blamed her for a lot of things, I understand some of the decisions that she had made back then, and some of you guys know, and I'll kind of give you a little bit here, is that, my adopted brother, was taking advantage of me, and I was supporting him financially for a very long time. I was a single mom of a newly diagnosed autistic son, and him and I were living together, and he just would not go get a job, and I would supporting him for about 5 years, and I had lost all access to my money, and I was the only one working, but he had access to it all, and he was spending it all to become, the next, I don't know, he was trying to become a famous drag queen, and he was going to be, that's how he was going to make money. But, we couldn't pay our rent. We couldn't pay for food. And I had gotten to the point that I wanted to kick him out. But, my mother wouldn't allow me. And I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out why, she wouldn't allow me to kick him out. But now at 45, I understand, yeah, it wasn't the right decision for her to make, but I was putting her in a situation where she was looking at having to, make the decision to make her son homeless. I get it. That was a tough decision for her to be, tough spot for her to be in. But, here I am now, and I understand that. And, I forgive her for, the role that she played in that part of what was going on. But I didn't understand it at the time, and I was very angry with her. I didn't understand that I was asking her to make, her only biological son homeless. But on the other end, I couldn't get either of them to understand that I was drowning and I needed help, being the only one working, supporting all of them with my paycheck, and then being told that, this is what we do for family. I don't know, that was just one situation from the past, but it's just something that I've had to process and deal with. But the point that I was making was, as we get older, we kind of look at these situations from our past maybe a little bit differently. We have different perspectives, different life experiences puts us in different situations to where we look at stuff a little differently. So we're going to continue to process this stuff for the rest of our lives. We're going to look at it differently as we get older, and that's perfectly okay. So it is going to come back, and it's how we deal with when it comes back. And, we look at it as a way of learning more, about ourselves and about the people that were involved and about the situation that unfolded. And that's what brings the understanding, and that's what brings the truth about everything out. And it is through that reflection, and doesn't mean it's not going to affect us emotionally one way or the other. And in fact, that's perfectly okay if it does. But this is how we, understand and move on. And this is how we get the courage and the strength, to grow. That's how we grow as people. Right. And as we continue to reflect and we look at reflection in that kind of a light, instead of looking at it as, I fucked this up, I screwed that up, these people did this to me, and we look at it through this lens of anger and resentment. You could have some of that, sure. But if we look at it through a way of wanting to learn and understand, that's where we can find the healing. That's where we can find the lessons from the stories from our past. And so now, like I said, I've got a very different appreciation for my mother and the situation that she was in when everything had come to a head with me and my family. She was trying to hold some things together, but ultimately, she could not bring herself to make her only biological son homeless. It was a tough decision for her. 100%. I get it. And I'm not mad at her for that at all. She's passed, about 10 years now. And so I look back at these things that I was angry about, and, I can get over the anger now. I've got a different appreciation and understanding for her and where she was. And so anyway, that's where I was going with all of that. But, 3 p.m. tomorrow, Finding Strength After Toxicity, day 1 of the webinar is going to be live. And so I hope you guys are all going to be there, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be streaming it here on Facebook. And I believe I'm going to be streaming it on TikTok and Instagram as well. And so I hope that you guys are all going to be there. It's going to be about an hour long. And it is going to be day 1 of the Finding Strength After Toxicity, the 4-day series. So we're going to meet every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for the next 4 Fridays. And we're going to go over some, pretty transformative, I would say, things that you really need to consider when you're going on a healing journey. So again, this is about finding the strength to continue to go on your healing journey, and the things that you need to have, and the ideas and concepts that you need to have to go on a proper healing journey, so that you don't necessarily fall for the stupid crap that's not going to help. Okay. There's a lot of that out there. There's a lot of people out there willing to just take your money and not do a damn thing to help you. They haven't lived it, but they think they know what to do. There's a lot of that out there. So we're going to weed through some of that kind of nonsense and just give it to you really straight. This is what you got to do. Whether you decide to do it with, my platform, Passion from Pain, follow along, or get into one of the courses, cool. If not, that's okay. That's okay. We're going to give you the roadmap so that you can do this on your own. Okay. You can look for the things that you need to look for on your own if you want to do it that way. And so that's what this whole thing is going to be about, this Finding Strength After Toxicity. And then after that, in May, I've got my part 2 to that course that'll be coming out, called Wounded to Warrior, and that's finding your passion from your pain. And that's where we dive into the pain from the past, and we learn to find our purpose from that. And how do we use our pain as a catalyst to pursue our passion and our purpose? How do we use it as a tool in our lives? Now, everything that happened to me in the past, everything that I was so angry about and that caused me to rebel so bad and make all these terrible decisions for my life just because I had this pain. Well, now how do I use that as a catalyst to move forward in a positive direction for my life? And that's what we've got going on with this whole platform. And that's what we're going to teach you how to do. And so I really hope that you guys are following along from the very beginning. I'm just starting all of this. It's been 20 years in the making. Just decided to start putting it all together. And it's been about a year that I've been working on it full time. And so I'm so excited to present all of this to you guys. I really am. And I'm really hoping that a lot of people can find some value and some great insight and information from this, because I think there is a lot of misinformation and a lot of misguidedness that's going on, in this area, in this field. And oftentimes it's for people to just make a lot of money on vulnerable people who, are just looking for some sort of, salvation, some sort of light. And, they're misguided by a lot of people who've never been there, and I often talk about the stories of how the whole mental health field, let me down and made things a million times worse. But thanks to one doctor, one doctor at an urgent care that I had never seen before, he opened my eyes to everything that was going on with the mental health field and the mental health process that I was going through. And so, I've done all of this on my own ever since. I got off all the medications. I got out of all of the therapy, and I did it all on my own. And once I did that and I understood what I needed to do, and I understood physiologically and chemically, how we are wired, how our bodies work, and I understood how to, kind of harness that, fix that within myself. I could learn how to control my anxiety. I could learn how to control my depression. I could learn how to turn it all around for myself. So I have been 20 years without any antidepressants, and they put me on them at the age of 13. And I took them until I was about 28 years old. And now I'm completely off of all of them. They had thrown just about every mental health disorder in the book at me. But we had learned that it was all because of, my controlling family wanting to help make me happy in a crappy situation that I was living in. I was depressed in my situation, because I was, being forced essentially to, provide for, completely capable grown adults when I was just a teenager, working full time for grown adults who didn't want to do a damn thing on their own, while I was still going to school. And so that was some of it. There was a lot of other things going on too, but the gist of it was I had to grow up really early so that adults in my life didn't have to do a damn thing. And then getting put on antidepressants so I could be happy in that situation. They couldn't figure out why I was so damn depressed, why I hated my life so damn much, but that was why, So they put me on the antidepressants at age 13, and, because they were so concerned. They were so concerned for my well-being. Yeah, right. Anyway, no, I later learned that it was just another way to control me, was through mental health medications. I at one point got a bipolar diagnosis. Then, no, that's not it. No, she just has a severe depressive disorder. Oh, nope. Anxiety. Oh, nope. Oh, she might have a little schizophrenia going on. No, that ain't it. I had been put on everything damn near by the time I was 28 years old. And I was so screwed up from all of those medications. And it was one doctor in urgent care. I had was having a mental breakdown at work. I had gotten a phone call that they were coming to repossess my car. And I had no way to pay, and it was the only transportation I had to get to work, and I had no idea how I was going to get to work and support everybody. And so I broke down, and my boss sent me home, and I went straight to an urgent care to get some Xanax so I could calm down, so I could think and figure out what I was going to do. And that's when that doctor, he looked at me and he said, I could give you this Xanax, but what's it going to do for you? You're going to take these, you're going to be back here a week looking for more Xanax. You've been on every mental health drug and nothing is working. You have been through about every therapy program and none of it's working. And he looked at me and said, Amy, when are you going to realize that until you change your situation, nothing's going to change? There's not a pill out there that's going to fix anything for you. Until you stand up to your family. And we had talked a little bit about what was going on, and it's like, until you stand up to your family and you get those freeloaders out of your life and you start living for yourself, none of this is going to go away. So you're digging yourself an early grave. These medications are going to make everything 100 times worse because you don't really have the conditions that, these medications are used to treat. You didn't have a history of this before. All of a sudden, now you've got a history. Now you've got all this stuff popping up when you've been taking these medications for so long that you don't need. So he kind of put me onto thinking that, okay, I really need to do something. I got to get off of all of these medications because he's right. These aren't working. They're not working. It's expensive and the therapy is expensive and none of it's working. In fact, it's all making it worse. In fact, the therapy is making me think that there really just is something wrong with me that can't be fixed. And so, I went back to my normal mental health providers and said I wanted to be off of everything. And they were kind of already starting to think that they were being, kind of manipulated by my family a little bit with a lot of the things that the family would call in and tell them. Often trying to speak with the doctors without my presence and telling them that, I had these issues, different issues. And so my regular doctors were already going down that road of thinking that, I was kind of being, manipulated, and they were being manipulated. And they were using this system to kind of control me in a way. And so they were in agreement to take me off of everything. And we did. We got off of everything safely. Took many months. In fact, it probably took about almost a year before I was off of everything completely. And we did this without my family knowing. And then it was within that year that I left. And I broke free and took my son and got my own apartment, and that was the start of the beginning of dealing with everything on my own at that point. And it was scary. It was scary as hell. Oh my God. But it was the best decision that I ever made. And then it was one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, always moving forward, always falling forward. God, I fell so many times. Fell so many damn times. But it's okay. You learn from those falls. You learn from the tripping. And you just move forward. And you keep going forward. And you fall down and you get back up and you say, okay, where was I? What's the next step? Then you just keep going and you're going to get to where you're trying to get to. And, here I am today. Did all that work. And I'm moving forward, and I'm moving forward with this platform so that I can teach other people how to do this, and I'm super passionate about it because I lived it. Nobody was there to teach me any of this. I had to learn it all on my own, and, after I had left my situation, I had to change jobs, move to a new town, and I ended up losing my health insurance. So I ended up losing, access to doctors, period. So I was really on my own. I had no guidance. And so, I had to do it all by researching in the libraries and really working on myself. And I did it, so it is absolutely 100% possible. You just got to do the work. You got to do it, put the time into yourself, and you can do it without hardly any resources. You can go to the library and you can research all this stuff on your own. You just got to put the work in, and you got to want this for yourself. You've got to get to the point where you're like, I can't live in this pain anymore, and continue to move forward, looking for the answers and looking for the way out. And I've put a lot of that together. And so I really hope that you guys come and watch tomorrow at 3 p.m. and start to learn, some of the direction that I'm going to give. And that's what I'm going to do with these is put you in a direction, and hope to get you on the right foot, hope to get you going in the right place, getting you in the right direction so that you can do this for yourself, because it is 100% possible. You can do it. I've done it myself, and I've helped others get through this as well. In fact, we just finished my beta version of the full-length course of Finding Strength After Toxicity, and the feedback that I got was phenomenal. I loved all of my beta testers. They were so great, and they loved all the information. and they all want to do the part 2. So I'm super excited for them. And if any of you guys are watching, I love you guys. And I miss you. And we'll have the second part really soon. And I hope that some of you guys are going to be in on the course tomorrow, or the webinar tomorrow. So I'm super excited for that. But anyway, yeah, what else do I got? I don't know. I just hope all of you guys see me tomorrow at 3. And I think with that, I'm going to head off. I've got to run in and go do a little bit of podcast production, get some more videos cranked out. And so, yeah, I just wanted to hop on and let you all know, tell a few stories and kind of connect with you guys a little bit. But I hope I gave you guys some kind of inspiration, and I hope that I gave you some good information. And I really hope that you come back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and you join the Finding Strength After Toxicity webinar tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here. All right. I love you guys. Have fun. And then just remember, you're always worth it. And there's always a way out. And, you know, if you ever need any help with that, okay, reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. This is what I do. All right. Love you guys.